first headlines is that Election Commission said that they found some foreigners in this latest issue that is going on. So just a quick background, there is a special so Election Commission said that in the latest survey they found a lot of foreigners who are from Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar during this latest electoral revision. We will see this issue as it evolves. Okay, I don't want to discuss in depth today because we don't know where it is going to head. Right, this one, homework for today, first point. And this is all the more important for anthro optional students also. What is the article? Reaching Jarwa tribes of Andaman Islands for census will not be tough. Okay, what is the overall issue here? You have some tribes in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Onge, Jarwa, Sentinelese. These are the tribes that are there in this region. And the peculiar nature of these tribes is that they are uncontacted tribes. You have such similar tribes even in Amazon forests. See, tribe as a community or tribe as a collective group of people who are living together with some common identity. Yesterday we were talking about intellectual tribalism, and in that context we discussed about tribes. The meaning of tribe is that they have a shared sense of identity, they have a similar lifestyle, similar social structures. Uncontacted tribes are those tribes which are living in forests from thousands of years, generation after generation, where they do not want to come in contact with the regular society. If we try to establish, they will attack us. There are many people who were killed in this pursuit. So, enumerating them will become a problem. But we want to have a data on them. This is the conflict. So, the whole objective of me asking you to read this article is to know the tribes that are there in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the geography of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So, the southernmost point of India, which was almost wiped out in the 2004 tsunami, is Indira Point. Where do we have it? Just go through the map of Andaman and Nicobar Islands and also the tribes. That's the first homework for the day. And also there is one project coming up in Nicobar Islands, Great Nicobar Islands. Leatherback turtle, giant leatherback turtle. It's facing, environmental risk. Just go through those basic details. That's enough. Climate change is deciding where and how rural Indians are living. Again, this article is not just about climate change. In fact, I would say it is opening up a new dimension in Indian society. Indian society, GS1. This is how you will interlink GS1 and GS3. In GS3 you will have climate change and its impact. Okay. So in environment you will understand the climate change as a concept and its causes and its consequences can be felt in different areas. So what is the consequence of climate change on Indian society, which is a syllabus pointer in GS1, is what we should look at from this article. Okay. The major takeaway is that, okay, this one more point I have to tell you. In GS1, you also have impact of climate change and how it will change geography. Even from that dimension, you will have to look at this article. Impact of climate change on geography, impact of climate change on society. In Indian society, when we are reading about demographics, one of the important parameter that we study is migration. We studied about this multiple times, but why are we studying? What are we studying in migration? Push-pull factors, right? What are the reasons that are pushing people out of the places that they are living in, or what are the factors that are attracting, that is pulling people towards some centers where large populations reside? This is the push-pull dimension of migration in demography that we are studying, right? Now, when we are studying this aspect, most of the times our discussions are confined to casteism, lack of economic opportunities. What are the push factors? When we're talking about the push factors, we're only talking about casteism, lack of economic opportunities, lack of resources, disguised unemployment, overburdened agriculture. Only these are the usual metrics that are discussed. Do we discuss climate change there in our traditional textbooks? No. So this is the latest dimension that you have to add to the push factors. Lack of climate adaptation is leading to migration, distress migration. Right. We are making an assertion. We are saying that people are forced to move out of their villages because they are not able to adapt to the climate change. When climate is changing, the productivity of that region will obviously change, right? Now, to prove this point, you need to have some case studies. Those case studies can be taken from this article. There are two major case studies, one in Vidarbha and the other one is in Maharashtra. Please pick up those points. Vidarbha and Maharashtra. This one. See, it will be there somewhere in this article. Yeah, Bundelkhand. Vidarbha in Maharashtra and Bundelkhand in Madhya Pradesh. You can take up these two. Okay. Particularly in Bundelkhand region, this article says that we are expecting a rise in temperature somewhere in the range of 2.5 degrees to 3 degrees, which will completely change the topography and how that region will prove to be productive. In the absence of a mitigation mechanism, what is going to happen to that societal structure? Let's say there is a agricultural family living there. They're living as a joint family. Now that land is no longer productive. What will they do? They will have to move out. It's not like all of them can move out together. Wherever there is opportunity, they will move out there. What does it lead to? Breakdown of the traditional joint family structure. Climate change impacting GS1, salient features of Indian society. First point, joint family. Disintegration. Clear? This is how you have to interlink. So UPSC will expect questions on these lines. How climate change is leading to the breakdown of traditional social structures. If a question like this comes up and if you are not reading newspaper, you will be stumped, clean bowled in the exam, because your mind will not be able to link at all. You will not find that in any traditional textbooks, but it's common sense only because you are commonly reading newspapers and you see articles like this again and again. It occurs very naturally. This fluidity of thought, the ease with which you can adapt, is what is required for UPSC. In the absence of this fluidity, there is no way you will react quickly. Please force your mind to interconnect. First thing is you have to master the concepts. In order to be able to link this article to different areas, first of all you need to know GS3 concepts. What at least the subheadings. Climate change and its impact. Under that you will have to know what are the points, the causes, the impacts, and in under that impacts you should have the presence of mind when you read an article like this talking about Indian society. So there you will link GS3 to GS1. Clear? GS3 to GS1. And when you are reading articles like this, you not only make an assertion, you will also prove that there is a case study there with data to prove my point. We're talking about Bundelkhand region and sugarcane farming. Can you tell me the two big states where sugarcane farming happens in India? Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. These two states are competing for the top producer. Sometimes it will be, most of the times it's Maharashtra, sometimes yield will be more in Uttar Pradesh. If these two states are facing a climate crisis, the sugarcane farmers who are depending on them, the sugarcane mills, the industry, the bagasse industry, the molasses industry, entire ecosystem gets disrupted. What will we do? See, that is what they knew from generations together. Not only it is impacting their society, that is societal structure, economic structures also get dismantled. And the cost of mitigating climate change in those regions is minimal when compared to the impact it will have in the long run. Even from an economic standpoint, it is prudent that we focus on investing our money in climate mitigation rather than adaptation. It's already, in the process of completely getting damaged. Almost 50% there. We still have a chance, but it looks like policy priorities are not there in that direction, and it will have an impact. How do we fix this issue is the discussion of the other half of the article. Okay, there is no discussion as such in this article. In Telegram, when I post this article, I will be linking it to an older one where we talk about nature-based solutions as opposed to technocratic solutions as a fix to live in harmony with the nature. Clear? Secularism implicit from day one, I think it's repetitive again and again and again, the same point. Almost, I think you can expect in 2025 mains this question. Is secularism implicit or explicit? Something on those lines. If not directly, some way or the other, you can expect this question. So what is the takeaway from this article? This article is rich in information. Okay, I want you to read this article intentionally, not because the points that the author is trying to make. The central point is that secularism, as you can see, is implicit in our constitution. It is not there only from 1976. So we should not misunderstand the word secularism. There are previous year questions both in GS1 and GS2 with respect to this concept of secularism. There are two models of secularism. What is secularism, first of all? It's a concept that talks about the involvement of the concept of state, the socio-political concept of state, in a social contract between an individual and the state. Group of individuals, let's say what is the kind of the social contract between the state and a group of individuals is decided by, that relation is described by the nature of secularism. Secularism is therefore a concept which talks about the nature of involvement of the state between a group of individuals bound by the identity of religion and the state. It's a form of a social contract description. Two formats are available broadly: the positive connotation and the negative connotation. Negative form of secularism means state will not at all involve itself in religious affairs. This is the model in France. Positive model of secularism: state treats all the religions equally and involves in safeguarding the interests of all the religions. India's concept is this, and it's called Sarva Dharma Samabhava. Okay? Sarva Dharma Samabhava. Understand this structure to make sense of this. What are the problems with the discussions and discourses around secularism? This is a critical article, okay? Critical article of the present government. So those political pointers might pop up. I want you to just focus on this concept of secularism because this is there in GS1 and GS2. The whole point is that we have added secularism. This is one of the major political contention, is that we have added secularism as a word in 1976. Before that, there was no artificially induced secularism. This is one of the argument made by political leaders at state level, or maybe at local level. So this will distort the discussions on what is secularism, how to nurture that idea. See, just because you have it on paper, it will not happen, right? People should also accept it. For generations together, if people accepted it, now we start questioning, the next generation will have a doubt if this is right or wrong. It is equally important to show people that diversity of this country, at the same time tell why secularism is important, right? The whole problem here is that the ground level discussions on the idea of secularism are either to promote this negative concept of secularism, which just doesn't work in Indian context, because religion is a way of life. If you don't see the involvement of the state in many aspects of religion, it will become difficult to maintain that public order and peace. For example, two religious communities are walking in the opposite direction. Let's say, for example, there is this procession of Ganesh Visarjan, and on the same time, usually Muharram can also come, or some other procession can, Eid or whatever. If the government decides that I am going to follow this France model, I don't want to involve, what can happen? Anything can happen, because inherently people with vested interest are there on both the sides. They want to use this religious identity as a factor to create tension in the society, and it is a responsibility of the state to stop that from happening, right? This entire article is about arguments not just from constitution point but also from historical standpoint, right from the times of Ashoka, what Motilal Nehru discussed, what you even have the Constituent Assembly debates, which we will usually forget. Since the author is a constitutional law expert, these points written by him will become very important because we don't have access to that kind of information in our traditional Lakshmikant textbook. So, I usually say do not use newspapers only as a source of information, but today use this article as a source of information because it will save your time. This is the reason why we say we have to use articles both for information as well as training our thought. Today's article is about information. Please use this article as an information source and note down the arguments because you are not going to get them in your traditional books. If you are reading Lakshmikant, under the chapter of secularism, in the preamble chapter, or in your GS1 society, this is more relevant in polity case, in secularism debate. This part write in GS1. This part GS2 arguments, constitutional debates, history, write it in GS2. You might get a question anywhere. If you are getting a question in GS2, you will start with these arguments and also mention these. Because the paper is GS2, you have to write policy and polity angle. If the concept is asked in GS1, you talk about all of this and also quote these in the end. 70-30 ratio. GS2, 70% GS2, 30% GS1. If the question is asked in GS1, 70% GS1 and 30% GS2. This is the adaptability. Most people don't do this and that's the problem. When you are seated in the exam hall, unless and until right from the beginning you are training your thought like this, you know what will happen? The minute you see this question, you will know what you write, not what the examiner asked you to write. Because the minute you think of secularism, if you are preparing continuously from society angle, if you have read previous year questions etc., you will write this answer in GS2. But what are the constitutional provisions which support secularism? Shouldn't you be talking about preamble? Essential religious practices doctrine, Article 25 to 28. Supreme Court, Article 32, right to religious freedom. The cases therein. How the policy debates happen. The Sabarimala case, Young Lawyers Association case, Sabarimala case in 2018. How we have to talk about the transformative constitutionalism. These are the debates you have to write. What will you write? Sarvadharma Samabhava, laicity, positive concept, negative concept. That's not what he asked. Don't do that mistake. Okay? Moving on. India's carbon credit trading scheme. See, this is very important. CCTS. This theme will again and again and again come back. I will briefly tell you what this is about. Because I'm pretty sure this article will come back into discussion many times. So I'll just briefly introduce so that you will have a context next time. What is the problem of climate change? The problem is that we are having greenhouse gases as a result of burning fossil fuels. Okay? This problem you are already aware. Now how to fix this problem? This is what you have to understand. One of the method is money. Give money, stop pollution. Simply put, this is the funda. Market driven incentive. See, if I tell I will tax you less or I will pay money back to you if you focus on technology that will reduce pollution, don't you think companies will do something about it? Because they are driven for profit. They will invest in some way or the other on figuring out a solution. And that is the whole funda underlying this market driven incentive schemes. This scheme or the previous scheme, this is the funda. So, before the existence of this carbon credit trading scheme, you have performance, achieve and trade, PAT scheme. Okay. Before this, I will go even further and tell you some homework so that you can understand what we are talking about. Okay, chalo. Let's start with electricity as a sector or power sector. Why am I talking about power sector? Because in India, nearly 75% of our global warming potential or greenhouse gases is coming from this sector. So in our agenda to decarbonize or reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, if we focus on power sector, we will be able to contain a lot of pollution. Correct? So in this decarbonization agenda, where all we can reduce the carbon, we will focus there. To focus on that, we will have to understand the entire supply chain of power production. First point is electricity generation. Most of it is from coal, 55 to 60%. So all the technologies which says we have to, go for coal plants which are much more efficient in dealing with pollution, reducing sulfur dioxide emissions, etc. The whole debate comes here. Next is distribution. See, in distribution, if you have losses in transmission and distribution are, broadly two different areas, but I'm clubbing for our ease of understanding. You generate and distribute. In the process, there is a lot of loss. Meaning, let's say 100 units of electricity is produced. Just because of poor electrical material, almost 20% is lost, for example. Don't you think it's a waste of money? It's not just about money. We are producing fuel-based electricity, fossil fuel-based electricity. There is a dual burden. On one hand, you are losing electricity, which is an economic loss, and the other burden is, apart from economics, you are also spoiling the environment. Don't you think it's our responsibility to fix it? Therefore, the parliament came up with a law called Energy Conservation Act in 2001. Just cross verify. I don't remember the year exactly. I think it's one. As a part of that, you have something called Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which is responsible for all your 5-star rating fans, ACs, inverter models, all of those. Why did we do this? Because we wanted to reduce our energy footprint. Clear? Fine. This is the context. In similar lines, we wanted to decarbonize not just the power sector but the entire industrial setup. And one of the method employed there is through market driven mechanism. But what is the leading area here? I told you, like, we have this Bureau of Energy Efficiency, right? This was actually brought under the ambit of National Action Plan on Climate Change. There is a national level plan which is called the National Action Plan on Climate Change. The purpose of this plan is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in various areas. One of the plan is National Mission on Energy Efficiency. Okay. Under that, you have this Energy Conservation Act, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, all those areas. As a part of this national mission on enhancing energy efficiency, okay, which is one of the 8 sub-plans under National Action Plan on Climate Change, we had this whole debate of carbon trading at all, completely, previously. When you go through your environment basics, you have something called COP5 1997 Kyoto Protocol, where you will see this whole point of carbon trading origin. Anyway, we will cover that in environment classes. I don't want to discuss that in much depth. But right now, You understood the funda, right? This scheme is about giving money to the companies so that they invest or they have some incentive to reduce pollution. As a part of this strategy, we are focusing on 8 important industries. What are those 8? Please read from here. But the whole problem of this discourse is that constant criticism is there, that individual industry is not reducing. Let's say, for example, together as a whole, if let's say, for example, one industry out of the 8 is only able to reduce 10 units as opposed to 100 units by some other industry, that is because of the inherent limitation of technology. In that industry, we were able to figure out how to reduce. In this industry, we were not able to figure out yet. But because of the existence of this whole market incentive, what is the situation together in the economy? Compounding effect. Take a look at it. Data says, yes, this mechanism did work. When it is working, why are we not promoting this? We should promote it, right? That is the point of argument in this article. Okay? Read that in the conclusion. This one, changing landscape of employment. What is the background here? World Economic Forum and World Bank and other leading institutions are talking about how AI and the automation plus climate change plus geopolitics of deglobalization plus inherent problems of India, where we are not investing properly on human capital formation. This cumulatively is damaging India's ability to produce gainful employment, meaningful employment, where people are not forced to feel like, okay, this is just a temporary job, my life is not settled, I have to do something better. Do you really think someone in an industry like Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato, or the overall gig economy, they feel comfortable that, okay, my life is sorted, I'm earning 35,000-40,000 a month? The minute they stop working, they do not know what to do about the future. What if in a world tomorrow where every delivery is taken up by drones? If it becomes efficient, we might as well do it. What will happen to all these people? The problem, okay, in this article you will see a lot of statistics to prove this very point. Okay, I've already explained this multiple times, I don't want to do it further again, but in kind of employment you have formal, informal. Formal means on paper you have everything, you will get PF, pension, provident fund, whatever, social security, insurance. In gig economy kind of a scenario, informal labor, you don't have anything like that. Okay, so what will happen to these people? They're always unsafe. Why is the situation happening? Because our jobs are different, our education is different. No link at all. Again, when companies have to employ people, they are looking at the ability of the candidate to be trainable, not the skills. It's very rare that students who graduate out of the college have the necessary skills that company needs. This is a burden to the companies also, but without training them, if they put them on job, they can't do business. So why should the companies have this headache? They're deciding to automate. Most of the entry-level jobs are gone. Mid-level jobs number is reduced. Only top-level management, which is deciding this and this, they are existing. Even their workforce is reduced because of automation. A case to the point being Microsoft. It saved as many as, it fired as many as 9,000 people in the last few months. You know what is the amount saved? $500 million. $500 million are saved for Microsoft. And it's a profit mongering company. That's what it will look at. It's not here to do social service. This is the concept of creative destruction. This is something you will see in GS1 Indian society. Michael Schumpeter is the sociologist who came up with this theory that market forces will have something called creative destruction. Just like how the advent of iPhone and touch phone destroyed the old market of keypad based phones like Nokia, time and again there will be technological revolution which will destroy the old structure of the society and create new ones. And this concept is called creative destruction. And that's going to happen in Indian economy, not just Indian economy, any global economy. Clear? That is what this article is saying. So what should we do? The article suggests some steps. Firstly, take a look at this. Urgent structural reforms are needed. First, there should be a stronger collaboration between industry and academia. Unlike in the West, where universities are funded by the private companies because they want the curriculum to be adaptive to their needs to a certain extent. It doesn't mean just because the company is funding the college, they get to do whatever they want. Of course, educational institutions should be having some values, because that is the place where students get to train and have their critical thought, scientific temper. That is fine. But it's not like they should be brainwashed to do only one kind of a thing. Better industry-academia collaboration. Second one is that, where is the second one? Yeah, educational institutions need to be held accountable for placements. You have many colleges. For example, there is this BSc college that I don't want to name the college, but the lecturers there do not know how to teach. In the gap between one period and another period, I've personally seen those lecturers trying to Google and YouTube those lectures and by heart those points and just read them out in the class through PPTs. Do you think computer programming is something that can be taught by reading out PPTs? No, right? It requires critical thought, and many colleges are getting permissions. There are many medical colleges where you don't have proper staff. Any doctors in this class? So you will have temporary doctors. Like, it's a very common practice where medical colleges will pay up doctors during the time of inspection just to stay there. That problem is not just specific to the medical education sector. It's every sector. Every engineering college has its own problem. Every humanities background college has its own set of problems. As such, educational sector has problems. It's obsolete, outdated, and does not respond to the evolving needs of our country and also the global needs. That needs to change. I'm pretty sure everyone who is seated in this class has got nothing to do with their educational background and the aspiration you have. Maybe that should change. Next up, the third problem is that we need skilling programs, because on one hand our demography is changing. Unless and until we skill them, it will lead to a demographic disaster. Finally, the most interesting point is that the author suggests that we create an all India service like IAS for education sector, National Education Service, which is constantly trying to bring in professionals, engage with the academia as well as the industry, which acts as a conduit between colleges and the academia to improve the quality of education and the speed with which reforms are incorporated. Because the future of education, according to me, is not about memorizing answers. It's about having a scientific temper to ask the right questions. The role of an educator is no longer to impart information alone. Students will evolve and they're smart enough to use the internet and the AI revolution to figure out the information. But what should they ask? Why should they ask? What should be the direction of thought? That comes through human interface. It cannot be, memorized. That requires All India Educational Services. And it's a very interesting take. Okay, the naysayers, let's say, this is not discussed in the article. The naysayers might say, if there is corruption involved, what will happen? Yes, corruption might be involved. But don't be so pessimistic that we will feel that nothing is possible. Democracy's antidote is more democracy only, not less democracy. Okay? Moving on. Who are qualified as ordinary resident? See, the whole funda here is, there are two things that you have to know. Section 20 and Section 19 of the RPA. Ordinarily resident means, let's say you are in Ashok Nagar as a voter, for example. Or you are not in Ashok Nagar, you are not registered as Ashok Nagar voter because mostly you came from elsewhere. Same is the case with migrant labor. If you have to vote, you have to go back to your place. But what if you go back and realize that your voter name is not there in that list? That is the situation in Bihar right now. So this article talks about ordinary resident definition as per Representation of People Act. Some category of people will be given that tag, ordinary resident, even if they are outside the place. Migrant labor are not given that. They are the most vulnerable, they should be given, they are not given. Who are the people who are given? Who are the people not who are given? And what is the famous Manmohan Singh case in Guwahati High Court? These are the things that you need to know. Do you know our ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh is not elected directly. He's not from Lok Sabha, he's from Rajya Sabha. Do you know the place? Assam, Guwahati. I want you to be a bit more curious and see what is this whole case about. Manmohan Singh case in 1999 itself. Okay. So, this is the funda of the article. Why must India recognize its open ecosystems? Long story short, in classifying our lands, one of the categorization is open lands. Those open lands which are categorized as wastelands. This wastelands classification is a very big problem. Because by the very nomenclature of calling them waste, you are saying that they are useless. And this very attitude tells that you have to plant trees there, you have to green the area more. That is a problem because it will disturb ecological needs of that area. For example, in Gujarat, you have this bunny grasslands which are more or less classified. Some of them are classified like wastelands. But you have some pastoral communities like Maldari community. So you can get these questions, some pastoralist communities, etc. Which is, look at the names here and also look at the Telegram article. I've linked it to an old article from 2019 or 2020. In that older article, you will see more tribes, more pastoral communities, which can be asked as, prelims question. Okay, please go through that article. So that's it for the day. These are the important articles for the day. We have discussed them. You can do your homework and it'll be fine. Okay.